The current landscape of WWE's tag division is genuinely something that doesn't get praised enough right now. Far and away is the era of tag team wrestling not mattering for them, and it shows by the number of solid teams they've built up and accumulated in the last few years since Triple H took over on the creative team. However, the problem has now become that you have so many quality tag teams who could reasonably compete for championships only for their momentum to be pseudo-sandbagged and held back by the lack of there being a title on both brands. So today I want to pose the question to you of, do you think the WWE need to split the tag team championships? As well as present both sides of my own argument, because I don't exactly think it's that simple. There are pros and cons to both, which I do want to discuss in this video and hear what you guys think down below. That said, if you guys go on to enjoy the video, it would mean a ton if you'd leave a like and consider subscribing for future uploads. All that said, let's talk about these tag team titles. Alright, so to start us off, I figured it might be best to recap how we got to this point in the first place. On May 20th, 2022, the SmackDown and Raw tag team titles were unified under the Usos, after Jimmy and Jay took down RKO to secure the gold. The Usos at the time were about 306 days into their reign with the blue belts, and they had taken down a majority of the tag teams on SmackDown at that time. As such, it only seemed logical to have them go after the Raw side of the tag division as well, especially considering it was more or less in order by the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns at the time for the pair to go after and take more gold in for the Bloodline. As such, they took the titles during the aforementioned Tag Team Winners Take All match, and from there the titles have stayed linked ever since. And from Jimmy and Jay's time holding it, they were won in that banger match at WrestleMania by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, before the Canadians dropped the straps to the Judgment Day, who had a funny little hot potato situation with the titles during their feud with the Libation Nation, aka Cody and Jay.
I'm gonna give you a full disclosure. Ood and I might have had a libation or two on the bus.
However, the Judgment Day did win them back, and they've held on to the titles since, which, mind you, I've personally enjoyed quite a lot. And I think there are some pros and cons to them specifically being champs while there is only one set of tag titles. Notably, Judgment Day has somewhat filled the hole the Bloodline story was occupying. And with the tag team titles in hand, it gave them the ability to appear on both brands, and generally speaking, that did help to raise their stocks in the eyes of the fans. Simply put, Finn and Damian felt like a fairly big deal because challengers left, right, and center wanted shots at the gold. And well, since it was the only gold around the division, it made them feel like more important titles overall. And that constant influx of challenger is a trend that's been consistent across all three sets of champions we've seen hold the Undisputed titles. However, in the last almost 2 years that the titles have been unified, the tag division has grown and expanded, with several extremely high quality teams who could serve as credible champions that have been hindered in some ways simply because there's only one set of belts. Now, for anyone who might type in the comments here saying, "What tag teams?" I'm gonna be very literal and just list them. We got the Creeds, DIY, Awesome Truth, Alpha Academy, Legado del Fantasma, LWO, Street Profits, Authors of Pain, Judgment Day, A-Town Down Under, Pretty Deadly, New Day, Cedric Alexander and Ashante the Adonis, Imperium, Indus-Share, the Good Brothers, and the New Ketch Republic. Not counting other injured tag teams like the Viking Raiders, that is 17 whole tag teams on the main roster with one set of belts to compete for. I'd honestly go as far as to say that it's criminal how little some of these teams are featured given the amount of talent they all possess as tandems. Like, A-Town Down Under has a great pair of guys who work super well together. But with there being just one set of belts on a heel team currently, I'm doubtful we'll ever see them have a shot at gold outside of maybe the 6-team ladder match. The same is true for teams like Pretty Deadly and Imperium, and it's not just them. Like, sure, maybe they'll get to showcase their tag prowess in filler matches on weekly television, but it's hard to not feel like a lot of the booking becomes aimless when the fellows are lacking a prize to fight over. There is a literal tournament being held on SmackDown to showcase all of the SmackDown teams who could and should be vying for their own set of titles and are instead fighting to be inserted into the 6-team ladder match at Mania. So for me personally, it stands to reason that overall there are more benefits there being 2 sets of tag titles, just like we have with the men's world and mid-card championships on each respective show. Now, with the point we're at headed into WrestleMania, I was hoping the big announcement from Pierce and Nick Aldis a few weeks ago were that they agreed to divorce the titles and would have them defended separately at WrestleMania. And well, while that wasn't what was announced, I believe there is still a semi-reasonable way for them to accomplish this. Now, we're going to have 4 different teams technically representing the Raw brand in DIY, Judgment Day, Awesome Truth, and the New Day, with the other 2 teams still being decided on at the time of me recording this video. Now, let's be real here. Let's say you're on top of a ladder. Let's say you're trying to pull 4 different sets of belts down at one time. 4 belts is a lot for one guy to grab and take down from atop a ladder with 10 other people trying to keep you away from said belts. As such, in the match, I reckon it's going to be rather difficult for just any one person to pull them down, aside from if their partner is also up there grabbing some. But rather than that, I think one person from one team and another person from another are going to be the ones taking down the gold. And believe it or not, I don't believe one of those teams is the Awesome Truth because of this clip.
I got acrophobia, y'all.
What? Acrophobia.
Okay, jokes aside, Truth would make the most sense here given his current story with the Judgment Day to grab one of the sets of titles. But I would say given some of the other quality talent in the match, I would kinda rather see them grab the titles if I'm honest. And regardless of whatever teams do grab the titles, I don't think it really matters whichever team grabs the SmackDown title in particular, as I'd imagine Pierce and Aldis would work out some kind of agreement that the team would wrestle on for the blue brand if they weren't already. Same deal if a SmackDown team grabs the Raw title. And if you're wondering what my personal hope if this happens is, it's that DIY gets one set and the other set goes to either the Street Profits or Theory and Waller. However, if this doesn't happen and they end up keeping the titles unified for the foreseeable future, I'm not super opposed to that either. As I mentioned before, I think there are pros to keeping the titles together, as they do make the overall prestige of that one championship shoot way up. Similarly to when Roman was the only one with a world title headed into Mania 39. Honestly, I'm pretty back and forth on if they should just keep them together or not. But I will say most of my personal reaction here is just that I don't want to see comedy veteran tag team The Awesome Truth be the only tag team champions in a division littered with genuinely stellar up and coming talent. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Truth, and I am one of the biggest Miz apologists you'll ever find on this site. But something about that image in my head just feels wrong given the current landscape of WWE. Under Vince, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he made The Awesome Truth win the belts, then somehow R-Truth goes to a casino and gambles them away and they have to win them back or some other comedy thing. But under Triple H's current regime, I feel a lot more hopeful that he's able to balance the more comedic and fun sides of wrestling with the serious and genuinely incredible potential of tag team wrestling. As simply put, he just respects it more. If you look back to Black and Gold NXT, there are some incredible tag teams that have risen up the ranks and are even on the main roster now. And honestly, I'd be shocked if one of those teams does end up walking out with the gold in some way at Mania. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. What do you think? Are we gonna see some weird, quirky split of the tag titles at Mania? Are the tag titles better unified than not? Let me know in the comments down below. And hey ho, while you're headed down that way, it would help me out a ton if you consider leaving a like on the video and maybe subscribe if you want to catch more of my content here in the future. And on the topic of my future content, I'm going to be releasing yet another career video, this time focused on the man, Becky Lynch, this coming Friday, which I'm currently in the process of recording and editing. I think it's going to be a fairly rad video and I hope you guys enjoy it once it's out. I also did just want to take a moment here and just thank you all for the support on the uploads. Whether you're leaving a like, a comment, or both, just know I see it all and try to react to everything I can because frankly, I deeply appreciate it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get back to working in that Big Time Bex video, so as always, I hope you stay safe, and that was Dylightful.